So let's talk about plants with multi-season interests. So where you want to start with that?
Well, there's so many. I just picked 10 of my favorites. And the first one on my list is the rabbiteye blueberry. It grows down here, it's native, and people love them because they have pretty fruit, they have pretty flowers in the spring, they even have a pretty fall color. They have a red, orangey, pretty fall color. And then when they totally defoliate in the winter, they have little exfoliating bark. So you're talking about a plant that's pretty year-round in some aspect or the other, and then you get the bonus of eating the blueberries.
And you can eat them.
Yeah.
Okay, like it.
And then my second plant is the oakleaf hydrangea.
Like
It's another native, and it has those pretty blooms, you know, spherical kind of blooms in the spring or early summer. And then in the fall, it has the pretty red kind of colored foliage. And then in the winter, if you leave those flower stalks there, they're kind of pretty. You know, they just dry right, dry right on the plant, and they're this pretty buff colored. And then the bark is exfoliating as well for the winter interest on the oakleaf hydrangea. And the other one I've got, I just put the genus of maples because there's so many out there that we can pick from, and people don't notice a lot of times in our native woods or even in their garden if they have a maple tree. In the early spring, it's one of the first to bloom. And you miss that a lot. You know, you start looking up and you say, what is that little frilly stuff? Well, it's the maple blooms. And then later, you know, in the fall, you have the seed, the samara. But anyway, the winged, you know. And then, of course, we have the beautiful, beautiful fall foliage.
Love it.
You know, it can just be any color imaginable. And some of the maples kind of are, they keep their color, you know, all the way during the summer. I've got a maple that comes out purple, stays purple. Japanese maples are all real interesting too.
They
are. They're kind of expensive, but there's a lot of our just bigger trees, big maples that are awfully pretty. The other one's ornamental grasses. People say, well, they look kind of dead in the winter. Well, they are kind of dead, but it's pretty because this is what I like about the ornamental grasses, like the maiden grass, which is miscanthus, muley grass, one of our natives. The switchgrass is a native, but they have a cultivar called Shenandoah Red that's really pretty. And the thing about the grasses in the garden, in the wintertime, of course, they're pretty all summer. You know, they come up with a different colored foliage or variegated foliage, depending on what kind of grass you got. And then in the fall, you know, they can get kind of go through a little bit of fall coloration, especially the Shenandoah Red switchgrass. But then you have the flower plumes that come up, you know, and they're real. You know, people talk about, these garden designers talk about motion in the garden, you know. Well, in the winter, you get the wind, breeze, it makes those little tassels just go back and forth, and, you know, of course, the leaves are all brown and dead, but they're pretty. So that's one of I like the ornamental grasses for that reason. They're pretty year-round. Sourwood is one of our native trees. I really like sourwood.
Do you?
I really do. I hunt them down if I'm out hiking in the woods, you know. They're called Lelia of the Valley tree because in the summer or spring or whenever they have these blooms that'll come out like fingers, and you can smell them. You can walk around and you go, what's that? And you look up, you know, and it'll be sourwood. So the tassels stay on, and then they just stay there and dry up. Of course, you get sourwood honey. Man, yeah, the bees love those flowers, and you get that really great honey. Then in the fall, it's like one of the first, right along with black gum and sweet gum, that color up. They color up, one of the first ones to one of the trees in the woods to color. Really bright, pretty red. You know, so they're multi-seasonal too. You got your flowers, you got the dried flowers, you got the fall color, and then the tree itself is just a pretty tree. It's more of an understory. It doesn't get really big like a big oak or something. So it's more of an understory.
That's good.
And this Henry Lauder's walking stick.
I was surprised to see that on your list.
That's a weird one. Yeah. The first time I laid eyes on that thing was at the President's Garden at Mississippi State University. And I saw that thing and I thought, what is wrong with that thing? Because it's contorted. I mean, the name of it is Corylus of Elevania contorta. Really interesting looking. Looks like a puzzle. And the fall foliage is pretty. It's kind of a purplish red. And the blooms are pretty. It's got a lot of attributes that, of course, in the winter, you see this crazy contorted plant. Everybody goes, what is that thing? So anyway, I like that one. Henry Lauder's walking stick, which is a hazelnut. The English call it a filbert, which I think is kind of interesting. Anyway, the other one is a Chinese or lacebark elm. That one's really amazing. It's got some of the most fascinating bark. Just pretty yellowish. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It's all mottled, and the older the tree gets, the prettier it looks, and it has pretty fall foliage. And it's just a nice form tree. They use them a lot in the medians at Mississippi State in the fall, like now. Wow. Yeah, they're pretty fall color, pretty bright yellow. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is the Washington hawthorn. And it is a small, mid-sized tree that's got a nice shape to it. And you see it in Corinth, my hometown, around entrances to factories, because it is a small tree. And it's got a nice, shape, rounded shape. And it has pretty white flowers in the spring in umbels. They're just not real showy, but you get the whole tree in flower, it's pretty showy. But the prettiest thing is in the winter, when that thing totally defoliates and every branch is packed with these really pretty red berries.
Yeah, seen that.
So yeah, and the birds like them, but they wait till they're about starved to death so that they won't eat them until the end of the winter. It's really interesting. They eat all this other stuff, and then you go out there and you see all these birds eating up your hawthorn berries. The other one that I like is the Kousa dogwood. Yeah, it's an interesting dogwood. Of course, it's not the native. It's one that was imported, but it's got some really interesting characteristics. Of course, it's got the dogwood bloom, but the petals, well, on these, they're like this shape. They're pointed. Yeah, they're pointed, and they're pretty white, and it blooms really prolifically in the spring. But then in the winter, it has kind of a okay fall color. Nothing to flip over backwards about. But the pretty thing is those fruit.
Yeah.
It has these big strawberry red fruit that stay on the tree, because I don't think anything eats them.
Really?
No, I haven't seen anything eating them. I don't know if squirrels eat them or not, but anyway, it's a real pretty big berry. In our dogwoods, they're really tiny, about like my little fingernail, tiny. But on this Kousa, they're big, like a strawberry. Anyway, interesting. And then, of course, there's all our crab apples.
Yeah, okay.
Crab apples, they kind of tend to be sometimes disease prone, but gosh, when they flower, wow. When they flower, they just take over the yard. Just a big flush of pretty flowers. I picked this one called Prairie Fire. Yeah. And I looked at the pictures and I thought, man, that thing's gorgeous. I've got a couple of crab apples in my yard, but not this one. I got another one, but I don't remember the name of it yet. And then you get the fall color. They have pretty fall color. And then you get the fruit, for the winter. Okay. So to me, those are my picks.
Those are your top 10?
Yeah, top 10, I'd say. And then there's lots of others.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of them.
There could be, people could, come up with some more, I'm sure.
And all of these are relatively easy to grow, easy to care?
Yep, I have nearly every one of these.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to come out to your yard to see that.
Oh, I don't have old Henry Lauder, though.
Oh, you don't have the Henry Lauder?
No, I don't have him. Yeah, I need to get that one.
Well, Dr. Kelly, we appreciate that. That's good information.
Sure.
Fun as always. Thank you much.